Hi everybody. We are going to get started on our next graded assignment. It's going to be a watercolor abstract creature painting using watercolors, and we're actually going to all be getting this nice watercolor paper here. It's a little bit larger and a little bit thicker than regular paper, and each student will just get one of these for their watercolor painting. So we need you to be very careful with it. Before you begin, grab a pencil and put your name on the back of the watercolor paper and your period with a pencil so that it doesn't show through on the watercolor paper. Some writing instruments will show through when the paper gets wet. Your first step is going to be taping your watercolor paper to a larger construction paper background. This will allow our watercolor paper to stay in better shape as we handle it and move it around, and it'll also make a nice white border where we tape it around the outside and hold it down on the background paper. Step one is to try to center your watercolor paper on your background paper so that the sides on all sides, top and bottom, are pretty much parallel. That looks a little bit better. And the next step will be to take a smaller piece of paper. This will just be a piece of colored copy paper, and we're going to do the same thing, carefully setting it in the middle of our watercolor paper and centering it so that the sides on the top and the bottom, left and right, are all equal. I'm just going to adjust that a little bit. Now we're going to tape it. We are going to use painter's tape to tape down the edges of our watercolor paper nice and evenly so they create a clean white border. This painter's tape is removable, but it's a little bit stickier than we want. So before you put it down on your paper, I want you to stick it and unstick it to your clothing first. So I have a little bit of my tape here, and I can just put it down on my clothes once and pull it off. Or if you have like a sweatshirt, you can put on your sweatshirt. It'll still be sticky now, but not enough to rip the paper. Now my next step is going to be to tape down my watercolor paper, my white paper, by going right up to the paper on the inside as a guideline, but not actually taping this paper down. Now I should have a nice clean line of blue tape that runs parallel with the edge of my watercolor paper. You don't have to take your paper off every time. I was just going to show you guys. Now I'm going to do this side the same way, this side, and then the top side. Don't forget to put it on your clothing each time, and then when you go to line up the tape, try not to use any extra tape than you have to. Try to just have it go across the last strip of tape that you put down so you're not using too much tape down here. And then at the top, rip it so that it doesn't go very far beyond your paper. When you've taped all four sides, hopefully you're able to remove this paper and let another student use it. And now your paper is mounted, your watercolor paper is mounted and ready for you to start your painting. I want to make sure that you put your name and your period on the side here, since right now your name is on the back of this paper and we can't. My name is on this now, and if I finish my color wheel and my other painting practices, I'm ready to start my graded final project. So the video demo that we did for practicing these creatures had us experimenting with different paint combinations, doing some dripping, some little accidents, and almost creating little creatures with these paint splotches and dots and little experiments. In your watercolor creatures, we want you to show that you can use different values, so lights and darks of each color, and also do some complementary color pairings in order to earn the learning target for this assignment. We want you to work small, almost thinking as though your little blobs are creatures like bodies, and adding appendages and antennas and legs, but not getting really literal with what you do. For your final project, try some of the techniques I'm showing you in this video. Do a wash first and then drop in some darker colors into the wet water. Or try mixing colors and let them dry and see what kind of unexpected results you get. Right here, my brush is not very wet. It's almost dry brushing, where you get a little bit more of a scratchy effect, and in some cases, a darker color. This is a video I took of a student today, creating this little splatter paint result by tapping her brush only a couple inches off her paper. You can think about your little creatures as though they were cohabitating a place together, whether it be underwater, or in outer space, or in a patch of grass. Later, when our paintings are dry, we'll come back in with pencils and black pens and add little features to our creatures. we'll be able to add faces or hair or legs or background details and turn them into a little scene. This is Su Yao Tian's artwork again. We looked at it a couple days ago. We're not going to say how many creatures you should make, but you should try to fill up your paper and create enough creatures that they kind of relate to each other somehow. Think about different complementary color combinations you want to do. If you want to earn a 4, you could try to do 1 pair of complementary colors throughout all of your artwork. In this case, the artist used green and red in every single one of the creatures. You can still get a high grade on this as long as you have different values represented and different complementary color pairings somewhere in your creatures. When you're finished, you can sign your name in the bottom right-hand corner of your watercolor paper to indicate that you are done. And finally, for this assignment, you'll have all 16 colors in your palettes that you can use. Okay, have fun with this. Good luck.